Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. This is your host, Jonah Lupton. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, if you have any feedback for me or the show, you can send me an email to jonahlupton@gmail.com. Today's guest is Paul Teshima. He is the co founder of a company called Nudge. Uh, they also go by Nudge.ai. The website is, of course, Nudge.ai. About 22-person team up in Toronto, Canada. They've raised $7.5 million. That's in US dollars. So it looks like they have some great investors on the team. I actually installed their product, their free product earlier today. It's a Chrome extension, but then they also have a paid product. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's welcome Paul to the show. Paul, how are you, man?
Great, Jonah. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today. So I guess first off, talk to us about your company. What does Nudge do?
Well, Nudge really focuses on understanding the relationships that can help you and get sales, whether it's sales from new customers or sales from existing. And I think in a day and age where there's so many of these like loose or non-existent connections in social media, we want to sort of get back to leveraging the relationships that matter and making sure you're nurturing the ones that matter to grow your business.
Awesome. So you guys are selling to mostly B2B to other business professionals or small companies, or who's your target market?
Yeah, B2B sales teams, B2B customer success and account management teams. That's where we're selling to. In a scenario where it's not a transactional sale, the relationship matters. So we sell into tech, we sell into professional services. We are also selling to some financial services as well.
Okay, cool. And you started this business when?
We started in 2014. I started with my co-founder, Steve Woods.
And was this the same concept back then, or have you guys made any pivots along the way?
The same general concept about relationships matter and how do you build and grow them in this day and age. That's been there forever. There's been certainly some pivots along the way, but they've been small under sort of that big guiding principle.
Now, did you guys start with a free product and then add the paid product later, or did you have both come out at the same time?
No, we started with the free product. It took us a while to get that up and running, and especially because we decided not to touch LinkedIn at all and their data model because that's sacrosanct. And we got that now to 12,000 users. And
Awesome.
we've since launched our paid product not that long ago, just literally 3 months ago. And that's going really well as well. So sort of off to the races, as you could say.
So is the goal to now convert some of those 12,000 users over to the paid version by giving them some extra features?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. So having some of them convert, having some of them continue to grow, and also, we are pretty tied into the sales and marketing community because of our last business, and so we also are engaging our own network as well at the same time.
So talk to us about what did it take to get this company off the ground? I think this is always a good question for people listening that have an idea and they need to know what it's going to take. So I would assume, there's a technical aspect to this where you guys had to go out and hire engineers. So, how did you find your early engineers, or did you and Steve build it yourself? How many people did you have to hire right off the bat? And then how long did it take to really get that first version out?
This is a great question, and I'm going to answer it obviously from our lens. But we wanted to take a big swing at a big problem, and the big problem we're trying to tackle is this idea that CRM has really only been customer record management for the longest time, and we want to help sort of add on a CRM and really add that relationship piece. And so it wasn't a simple problem to solve, but we felt that someone is going to solve it soon. I mean, whether it's LinkedIn down the road or whether it's another CRM system. And so we want to tackle it. We raised a bunch of money, raised actually 2.5 million US to start. And we hired about 8 senior engineers right out of the gate because there was a lot of AI involved. There was a lot of scale involved. And we knew we had to get some of the fundamental pillars in place before we could really start refining and taking it to market.
Okay. Who did you guys end up raising that capital from? Was that from Canadian investors or US investors?
So the first note was from friends and family. Although to be fair, some VCs put some personal money in, and that was really a lot of them also had made a significant amount of money off of our last exit with Eloqua, and so that was a good round for us because we had some friendly investors, and it bought us a couple of years to really lay the groundwork for the product and where it is today.
What kind of an exit did you have? You don't have to tell us the amount, but what was that business that you had exited from? I assume that you
It,
sold it.
it's public. I can tell you. I mean, I don't want to.
Oh wow.
Although I don't want to brag or anything. Yeah, it's a public record. So we IPO'd in 2012, and we got bought for 957 million US by Oracle in the beginning of 2013.
Amazing. Congratulations. Was
Thank
that
you.
company was that company also built in Canada?
We had incorporated. I mean, it's probably a little known Canadian story because we founded it in 2000, and there was no tech scene here in Canada at all. It was like a wasteland, a desert, and so we eventually incorporated in the U.S. in 2007. Brought on a U.S. CEO, Joe Payne, and from then on, and people knew us as a U.S. company, although the biggest office was still here in Toronto.
Gotcha. Okay. Will you end up doing something similar, you think, for Nudge down the road? Or has the landscape changed where you guys can stay Canadian the whole way?
Yeah, you can stay Canadian the whole way now, and I think it's definitely changed. And obviously, the Toronto tech scene, as I mentioned, there's probably like 3 startups back then, and now there's 6,000 in Toronto. And so I think the ecosystem is really different. Lots of venture capital, lots of talent, people who've seen it 2 or 3 times in a row, seen the experience. And so I think we can stay Canadian and build it here. Although we will expand, obviously, into U.S. offices as we grow.
Gotcha. Okay. In terms of what does the startup scene in Toronto look like? I mean, I know certainly capital is not flowing up there like it does here in the U.S. But are there investors? Can you find early stage employees? Can you find enough technical talent? Like, what are the pros and cons of building a business up there?
So I think the pros are that, again, I do feel like the venture capital piece has come along quite a bit, and we're getting a lot more U.S. investors interested, especially in some second and third timers. I think that the talent here is incredible, especially around AI with University of Toronto and all the things that are going there around artificial intelligence and sort of machine learning. And you've got now larger U.S. companies with significant presences here, whether it's Salesforce.com, NetSuite, offices like that. Slack just opened up a sales and marketing office here. And so lots of sales and marketing training, lots of product people, and really good, strong developers at a discounted rate of 30% to the US dollar. So as long as you charge in US revenue, you're already making margin.
That is a good point. Never even thought of that before. The exchange rate's that dramatic? It's 30% now?
Yeah, I think it's 72 cents on the dollar or something.
Wow.
So yeah, now that doesn't last forever. Always,
right,
you've had swings either way. But yeah, but I think it also the other thing that, and we learned this from Eloqua, that we probably are less distracted. I mean, there's lots of benefits of being in the Valley. And I go out there once a month, and it's important to build a network there and understand what's going on and meet tons of incredible investors and founders down there. But it can be distracting. And I think one thing we learned at Eloqua is that we couldn't just sell to tech. We had to learn to sell to other industries really quickly, go globally a lot faster. And so there were some hard lessons learned early that I think allowed us to build a business that scaled the first time. And we're going to take some of those learnings into the second business.
So let's talk about scaling a business. So 12,000 users, how long did it take you to get to that? Was that 2 or 3 years?
Oh, no, the 12,000 users, probably about, I'd say now it's been about 12 months, maybe 10 months.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what's been your growth strategy? How have you guys been able to acquire so many users so quickly?
Well, to be fair, we actually haven't done that much advertising or anything inorganic. It's been just a lot of good content marketing. A lot of products today, if someone finds value in them, it's just a lot of word of mouth. And I'm not saying it's viral because that's an overused word, but there's certainly some passing along. If one person in the sales team likes the product, chances are they'll mention it to 10 others, especially if it's free and it plugs in and it works with things like tools like SalesLoft. And so there's been a lot of that. And then I think the other thing is just a sort of a real fun, what we call that product-led go-to-market. So is it easy for a user just to discover us and sign up by themselves in 5 steps? I think, and to be fair, that took a long time to figure that out.
I've heard of SalesLoft before. I've actually never used their product. Are they a CRM or some sort of a sales automation tool? What exactly is SalesLoft?
SalesLoft is a sales automation tool, and they're doing incredible things helping sort of sales development and account executives better engage and prospect with their accounts. Another competitor of theirs would be a system called Outreach. I don't know if you've heard of them. So they work in conjunction with the CRM. They're not a replacement of CRM.
Gotcha. Okay. And then how do you guys plug into SalesLoft?
So, we did an announcement, a partnership with them, and what we said was that our Chrome plugin, which provides insights around people and about companies, is going to be free in their platform. And normally when you do integrations into business workflow, it's not free. And we just thought, you know what? We want to help people build better relationships. That's our focus. And so that piece is going to be free for all SalesLoft users. And so it plugs right in. And as you're doing your outreach, you can quickly see and better understand the buyers you're going after and provide more thoughtful outreach, whether it's a call or an email.
Is tech still your largest industry in terms of clients?
Yes, it is. Yes. And it probably will be for a while, just because, again, our history has been in tech. But I think over time we'll definitely diversify.
And is it mostly software companies? I mean, SaaS companies, or is it companies that are really heavy in terms of outbound sales?
I think it is mostly software companies, but you're right. It is companies that deal with much more outbound, more targeted accounts, larger customer bases, because they want to really build deeper relationships. And this idea, we use this phrase, you want to go broader and you want to go deeper into accounts, right? That if you have that as an initiative, whether that's at new business or existing accounts, existing customers, we're going to help in that scenario.
What are the chances that you sell this company to Oracle?
Oracle's a great acquirer, and they were awesome to us at Eloqua, despite some of their reputation. We really thought they were great, liked the experience, and they have deep pockets, and they're in the CRM space. And I always stay in touch with key people at Oracle whenever I can. But we're going to build this business to last, and then see what happens after that. And that's the only way to do it.
After they bought your company, how long did you guys stay on board, or had you already left and working on something different?
No, both Steve and I were part of the deal team, so the M&A team, and we were officially announced December 2012, and I left October 2013. I wanted to make sure the transition went well.
Which day was more exciting for you, the day where you guys IPO'd or the day when you got acquired?
I think the day we IPO'd, for sure.
I would probably think so. That's kind of certainly a bigger financial windfall, for the core team, the employees, the investors. But those are two.
To be fair, the Oracle deal was probably a bigger financial windfall by far, because it was an all-cash deal. It was 2x public market cap.
Oh wow!
And we didn't have a lot of liquidity after the IPO, as most companies don't. But the IPO for us represented obviously an infusion of $90 million of capital, but a real milestone that we had done enough work in the business and had made enough customers successful that the public market could value us and trade our stock. And it was just an investment event, but it was a great moment to look back and the history. There's some history there, in that we had been looking to IPO for many different times, and always something had happened, whether it was 2008, 2009 when the market crashed, whether it was just before Facebook IPO'd and it went down. And then we had a patent lawsuit that was put on us for $100 million, which held it up for a while. So there's a lot of things that happened along the way that really said, you know what, this is never going to happen. And then it finally did. And it was pretty incredible.
Awesome. Well, kudos. Those are two pretty memorable days, I'm sure, in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
So back to Nudge. So you guys really haven't done much advertising at this point, kind of word of mouth. When will you guys ramp up the marketing and advertising?
I think we're still being pretty strategic with it. We're doing some less light experimentation with some targeted ads for a solution called Terminus, which is great. But we're really focused on content marketing and driving SEO, which works really well for us. And then really targeting the user base and saying, if we have a pocket of 3 users, how do we make them really happy? How do we make them grow? How do we make that pocket of 3 users at a company go to 30? And if they're at 30, then maybe we can turn them into a paid deal. And so there's a focus on that. And then the great thing, happy salespeople talk to other salespeople. So I'd say we're still focused on that. But if we do go bigger, it'll be after, it'll be after we get a little more traction on the commercial side, and we decide, we got to go to the bigger market faster.
Is there anyone in the company outside of a salesperson that would be using your products, or is it pretty much exclusively for salespeople?
Salespeople use it. Customer success and account managers use it, again, because of the relationships piece they really care about. And we are seeing, as I mentioned, outside of, there's a lot of CEOs on our product and a lot of venture people on our product because they care about relationships a lot. And CEOs especially have a huge network of relationships they need to stay in touch with.
Yeah, I think certainly the longer you're in business, the more you realize that success really is about, building the right relationships with the right people. Just in any business, I've learned that, my last couple companies, it really is all about the people, your customers, your team members, and the better you can know those customers, the better that you can serve them for sure. What have been the biggest challenges for you guys over the last couple of years?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that it's oh my God, whereas at Eloqua it was a waste. We were the only ones trying to do this thing called marketing automation for the longest time. Right now there's hundreds and hundreds of companies in every segment of the market in terms of startups. And although we think we're very differentiated, we've obviously done a hard work and some real heavy tech around AI. Everyone says they do the same thing with everyone else, and I think that's challenging. I think the other thing is that the buyer today really doesn't want to talk to salespeople, really wants to touch the product themselves,
right? And
then has a very high expectation. It's this phenomenon I call consumerization of the enterprise, where I didn't coin that. That's a phrase that's out there, where they almost want it to work just like a Facebook app, or it should be that simple. I should download it. I should try something out. It should work immediately. I get value, and I keep using it. And I think that expectation is really hard to match, especially if you're solving enterprise level problems.
Now, I asked you this question in the pre-call, and hey, this is something that all entrepreneurs deal with. You guys are at Nudge.ai. How did you settle on the .ai part instead of .com or .net or one of the other one, another extension?
Well, I think certainly there's .com would have been great, but we are an AI company. We've had machine learning built in with a data scientist working on that for like 3 years now. So we felt that was appropriate and where we wanted to hang our hat. And two, Nudge.com I think is on sale for like $500,000 or something like that. And so right now that doesn't make the most sense from a investment perspective. Hopefully one day we'll be able to afford it as well. But there's been certainly a rash of .ai companies.
Yeah,
I hope the government of Anguilla doesn't decide they want to pull them all back anytime soon.
Oh God, that's where they started. That's pretty funny. I never thought about it. I just assumed it was actually for AI type companies. that one of these domain registrars came up with it. But nope.
No,
okay, cool.
.ly got pulled back by Libya.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. You used to see a lot more of them. You don't see them anymore.
Right.
What else can you tell us about this business? Or anything that you learned from your first business or actually, I don't know if that was your first company, but at least the one that IPO'd, and then you had an acquisition. What did you learn from running that company that better prepared you to run Nudge?
Well, so I'll tell you right now, and this is number one, you said it earlier, it's always about the people. So the journey, the second time, people ought to ask Steve and I, why are you doing it again? You guys should be retired on a beach somewhere. And first I'd say I would be bored as all heck if that happened. But the more important thing is that the most incredible part of building a startup is all the people you work with, the people you meet, the people you try and sell to but fail, the people you work with as customers and make successful. It is those relationships that make the whole journey so incredible and so fulfilling. And so I'm realizing that and understanding that and experiencing that more than ever at Nudge, which makes even hard losses or hard failures still part of that journey, still part of the reason why you're doing it. And then the second thing is ask for help. As a first-time entrepreneur, my God, did we bang our head against a wall a gazillion times and never talk to anybody and keep our heads down and say no to meetings that didn't make sense. And at this time in Nudge, we're heads up. We try and help other people when we can. We will ask for help, and when we need it as much as we can. Just very much more open and realizing we don't know it all. And I think that's been very, very beneficial.
What has been your recruiting strategy, and how many people have you hired for Nudge that you've worked with in the past at your previous company?
So at the start with development, we hired a lot of the superstars that we worked with before who had seen scale at $1 billion business and built some of the first high scale cloud enterprise applications. And so that was brought in. We then purposely started hiring outside of our core network that we knew, because we wanted to bring some diverse views and different people into the culture and not just try and build Eloqua again, because we weren't. It was a very different company, different time. And so half of them came from just us working with our network and understanding who's out there and who could fit what we want to do. And that's how we got the other part of the company. And then, I think the thing that we really try and emphasize, and this is where, it's great that we chose this business, is that, we have this saying that your network is your net worth. And that's been used by a bunch of different people out there. And we really focus on making sure the team is spending time building their own networks out. Even if they're developers, they're not in sales or marketing or, part of the founding team. And so that's a real core value for us. And I think translates into the product in terms of our philosophy there and what the free product should be doing for everyone who uses it today.
What's the hardest position to recruit for, in your opinion?
Oh, I mean, data scientist. My God.
Just because they're in high demand and there's probably less of them?
Yeah, I'm going to try and I don't want to insult anyone out there as a title data scientist. No. I'm saying, there's a data scientist who's, actually done data science, like done real work. It's like, not 6 to 9 years of schooling. It's not a 2-year course where you take on a part-time basis. And so our data scientist did her doctorate at Oxford and her postdoc at Columbia in computational biology. And finding someone like that is really hard.
Now, the data scientists, they're not a developer themselves, so they're working with your development team?
No, they're a developer.
Oh, okay.
They can code. Algorithms. They can build topic models, work with Hadoop clusters, all the stuff you need to do. Not all of them can, but there's a huge element of that. You're basically trying to model certain hypotheses with code and then apply a learning algorithm around that to try and make it better.
Now, when you went to go hire your first data scientist, did you know enough about data science to ask them the right questions, to have a thorough interview, or did you have to bring in someone to help?
Well, I didn't, but my co-founder Steve did. And then 2, it was referred in by someone we really respect in terms of their technical their technical chops. And so that always helps, right?
Right. Oh,
but yeah,
sure.
to say that, but she definitely knows more than probably Steve and I combined about anything to data science. But she's great, and we're lucky to have her.
That's always a challenge. There's so many different departments inside of a business or a startup that, sometimes you may be outside your comfort zone trying to hire for one of those departments, and sometimes you just have to figure out a way to bring in someone that could do a better job interviewing. I've had to do that myself. So it's good that your co-founder is there. How do you guys split up your roles?
Well, Steve really focuses on product, as do I in some extent, but he really leads that team. I focus on everything else. And obviously there's a big intersection. Steve is engaged in the market as well from a marketing and sales perspective, and I'm engaged in product on a day-to-day basis. But he's got the lead on that, and I've got the lead on the go-to-market, on sales, on people, on operations, on partnerships, and all that other stuff. And awesome. So we work really well together because we have what I would call healthy tension. And I would say that if you're looking for a co-founder out there, don't find someone who's exactly the same as yourself, because you got to have some healthy tension. You got to actually have some differing views. You got to be pushing each other on things that you like versus they don't like or need, and that's what allows you to grow the business faster. And I think that's important.
When there is tension, when you guys disagree on something, or strategy, a hire, whatever it might be, how do you guys typically try to come to a resolution on stuff like that?
It's It's interesting. So, there's a healthy amount of humor and sarcasm in the air in the office anytime is how we cut it. But Steve and I still meet one-on-one every week and bring issues to the table. And I think both of us take the approach, although in slightly different ways, to understand the point of view first of the person, to really get to the root of what's driving that friction point, right? And I think ultimately it comes down to trust, right? Since I've worked with him for 16 years, even if I really disagree on something, but if it's something he is running, he knows he's in there, I will trust him to make that decision, and then we'll circle back on it to see what the output is. And I think that's really what it gets down to, is because otherwise you could be fighting about everything, and you got to move. You got to make fast decisions all the time.
Last question I'll ask you here is, how, before you started working on this, right? So let's just say the idea popped in your head one night and you wanted to build Nudge. How did you know there was a market for it? I mean, was it just from your own experience? You knew that something like this was missing, or did you go out and talk to potential customers? What's your process for vetting an idea and deciding if it's really worth going out and building it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's three things. The intersection of three things, I think, to do that. One, of course, is that you have to be passionate and love the idea. Like, you have to really be into that space. You have to really want to do something there. It has to be a part of something that you're really, really dedicated to. Two, I think there needs to be a trend that's bigger than you, that is pointing in the direction of the thesis of your idea. In other words, for us, it's that we believe in the future, your network and the relationships are going to be more important than ever, because all these digital connections that we created are getting diluted. Like, they're not adding value. It's noisier than ever out there. People have no idea how to stay in touch with people anymore. And so if you can focus on the network, we believe that someone will solve how to make that more valuable for you than ever before. Whether it's us, we hope it's us, but we think it's inevitable. The third thing is, you got to go talk to people. So we talk to many, 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 many sales users. We talked to many sales executives, and we got lots of differing opinions, and we distilled it down to some core things that we thought were important, and then we went to tackle those problems.
Awesome. Great advice across the board, man. I really appreciate your time today. I know you're a busy guy building a business, so I'll let you get back to work here. Any closing thoughts or words of advice for the audience? And then, of course, how can we follow you online, whether it's social media, blog, any of that stuff?
I think my closing words for advice is, for everyone who's professional out there, spend time with your network, nurture it. Take a meeting that you wouldn't have taken otherwise, even if there's not an immediate outcome for you in the near term. You never know how that will pay back if you help someone else. And I think that's the biggest thing I would tell any startup professional, business professional out there, is spend more time than you think you need to with your network. And it always pays off in the end if you focus on giving value. You can reach me and find me at Paul Teshima. I changed it at Twitter. That's Teshima. And please, if you haven't, try out a free product, Nudge.ai. It's great, and you can grow one of the 28 million business relationships we're tracking on the web, and it's great.
Crazy, man. Big numbers. Yeah, I installed it earlier today, so I'll certainly be playing around with it over the next few days for sure. Looking forward to it. Well, thank you so much, Paul. Really appreciate your time today, and let's definitely stay in touch.
Thanks, Jonah. And absolutely. Go Pats.
Yeah, man. Talk to you soon, Paul. Bye.
See ya.